Hello friends, this is lesson number 40 under the category of British literature. In this lesson we shall discuss Sir Thomas Malory. And he was quite famous for one of his important work, and that is Morte D'Arthur. Morte D'Arthur. We shall discuss the brief summary of this work because it is a huge work and there are great details like as we have in Mahabharata or so. There are plenty of stories, little stories contributing to the major plot. So we will not go deep into that. We just have a brief outline of the story, and we shall discuss a few of the important points related to the previous year questions. So first, a few things about Sir Thomas Malory. First, he was not a professional writer. He was called as a layman's writer. Layman's means common man. So he was just simply writing for fun's sake, not professionally. And second, he was, as I used the word like a sir, so he was given the knighthood in the year 1441. So I forgot to tell you the main timeline. His life spans from 1415 to 1471. So in the 15th century we have this man, and he was given knighthood in 1441. About his personal life, he was convicted in several crimes. He was always involving in some sort of crimes like committing means a rape even, or making physical assaults to the people. But many times he got the royal pardons for his crimes because he was somewhere in close relation with the people who were so near to the king Henry VI. So remember, that time Henry VI was in power in Britain, and he was so close to the authorities. That is why most of the time he escaped the punishment and got royal pardons. Later, during his last years of his life, he was again convicted for some crimes, and that time he did not get any sort of those relaxations because he was no longer in touch with those kings and their kingsmen. So that time he was in jail, and in the jail he wrote that fabulous work that we have, that is Morte D'Arthur. Morte D'Arthur. It is a French name, not an English name. There was a question in UGC NET exam previous years that what is the meaning of this word, or what is the meaning of this title, Morte D'Arthur, and the answer is the death of Arthur. The death of Arthur. You can relate this word morte, mortal. So mortal means when something is going to be dead or died. So the same thing is with we can relate, so death with morte or mortal. So the death of Arthur. And the original title of this book was The Whole Book of King Arthur and His Noble Knights of the Round Table. The Whole Book of King Arthur and His Noble Knights of the Round Table. Even from the title you can get some sort of assumption that what is going to be the matter in this book. It is a huge work first, and in this work we have lots of stories or things related to King Arthur, and second we have lots of details about his knights, because if you remember in the previous lessons there was one story that we discussed, that was Sir Gawain and Green Knight. It was also related to the King Arthur, and in that I discussed the important knights and I told you about the round table. So similar things are here. So we have lots of things to be discussed about King Arthur and his knights, their characteristics, their means of features, especially their, you can say, the qualities, the chivalric values are going to be discussed in this work. So everything, the human qualities, especially of the knights, like strength, their power, manners, honesty, justice, everything will be there, as a theme in these stories. There are a number of stories in this book. Actually, this work is collective or collection of 21 books, or 21, you can say, the chapters. So this is a huge work by Thomas Malory. So we shall discuss all these details one by one. So one thing first, you see that he himself was involved in lots of crimes, as I told you that, but still he was writing the things about morality. So it is quite ironic that he himself in his personal life was involved in crimes and every sort of, you can say, the bad things of a human behavior or human life, but he is discussing here the moral values. So it is also a political, you can say, it comes with a political theme. We also discuss what is that. But first, let's discuss the important things about King Arthur and the history a bit, and then we go deep into this work. Okay, we will not go deep into the main plot, but we shall discuss several important things which are must for a literature lover, because this work, Le Morte D'Arthur, serves as a source for number of works, as we have a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. It is a work written by Mark Twain. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. Idylls of the Kings, written by Lord Alfred Tennyson. They also take the source or the theme, everything from this work. So this important work serves as a source for number of works in the late 16th, 18th or 19th century. So first, a few things about King Arthur. Actually, there are two names. One is King Alfred. If you have gone through any of the segments of British history, especially that time, there was a King Alfred. That was an actual figure in the history. But as far as King Arthur is concerned, it is considered that it is just a mythical figure. So whatever the stories that we are going to discuss or we are going to read here, these are just mythical things or mythical figures. Everything about knights and the characters, these are just mythical stories, not real. But King Alfred was real. So just try to remember these 2 points. King Alfred is a real man, real king of Britain during the 8th century, and King Arthur is a mythical figure. And second, I just give you one more hint that King Alfred is related to literature as well, because he published Anglo-Saxon Chronicle during his rule. Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, in that there was a literary contribution of the different writers of old age. That was a real thing. But as far as King Arthur is concerned, it is purely a typical, you can say, mythical figure. Second, I told you about the matters, 3 matters. The first is the matter of Britain. When we discuss matter of Britain, we have King Arthur and his stories. In matter of France, we have King Charlemagne, and then we have in matter of Rome, we have Alexander the Great, the main figure. Okay, we will not go into that. First we come to King Arthur. King Arthur is a figure of a man larger than life. He has some supernatural power, some great physical strength, enormous power he has, and he used to hold a court, and in that court he had a round table, and there used to be 12 of his knights sitting with him. So imagine a king is sitting, and along in front of him there is a round table, and alongside or beside this table there used to be the 12 knights, the great warriors of his, and they used to sit with him. And this is the story about his warriors and his life, and especially this work, Le Morte D'Arthur, discusses everything from his birth till his death. Everything is discussed here in this book. So first, one point to be remembered, that this work was first published by William Caxton. William Caxton, and in the year 1485, remember the date, 1485 is the year when it was published, and it was published after Thomas Malory's death. So it was posthumously published. And as I mentioned that this work also comes as with a political theme. What is that? In this work we see the rise and fall of the King Arthur, and through this figure or through these events, Sir Thomas Malory is telling to the people of Britain that they should also not indulge in these sort of fights as the people of the main people or the knights of the King Arthur, they indulged, and which eventually led to the downfall, or you can say the destruction of the Arthurian court. So his empire was completely destructed, and after his death there was nothing related to his empire. So the same sort of situation England should not face. That is why he is warning the people, especially the people with political powers, that they should not indulge in those sort of mutual fights, especially going against each other for any political reasons. He is simply warning the people. And this work does not focus on the love affair of the main figure we have, that is Lancelot, his knight, and Guinevere. Who is Guinevere? Guinevere is the queen. She is the wife of King Arthur. So there was an affair. It is said that during when we go through these mythical stories, it is said that there was an affair between Lancelot, the knight, and his the wife of the king, that is Guinevere. We shall discuss these important points in when we discuss the summary. So just remember that it talks about the political themes, not about the love affair of the knight and the queen Guinevere. Okay, now we come to the summary or brief summary of this work. As I mentioned earlier that this work is consist of 21 books as published by Caxton, William Caxton, and in this book we are told everything about from the birth, his rise and his death, everything about King Arthur. So first I'll introduce you about these figures. There is a King Uther, and we have his wife. Okay, the name is Igraine. Actually, King Uther had an affair with Igraine, and because of this affair she gave birth to a child, and this was illegitimate child because at that time they were not married, and this child was simply deserted. So they simply left the child and they discarded, and later this child Arthur, he was raised by Merlin. Who is Merlin? Merlin is a wizard who helped Arthur a lot in flourishing in his life, a mentor sort of person. So he was working, or he was acting as a mentor to Arthur. So Arthur was leading an ordinary life. After the death of the King Uther, there was no man to be there as a king. And later Merlin declared that there was a sword which was stuck into a stone, and he declared that whoever pull off this sword from this stone will be declared as a king. And then we have this you can say figure Arthur with great power. He pulled off the sword, and the people accepted him as the king, and the sword was called as Excalibur. Excalibur. Actually, Arthur did not know that he is the real son of the king. Merlin knew, but Merlin was there, was willing that it should be established among the people that yes, Arthur has the birthright or has that potential to be the king. So that is why that sort of competition was there, that whoever will uh, remove the sword from the stone will be declared as a king. Now, and then we have the life of King Arthur. He defeated many enemies and helped the innocent people like a noble warrior you see in the movies. So same sort of things. One more thing, as movies I talked, there are lots of movies on King Arthur. You can watch, you can get some ideas about these figures. And one more thing, some of the movies even may mislead you because there are different sort of stories. You may not get the same story which is there in the book. So on some of the segments you will find some different stories in the movies. So these sort of things you might face, but at least I would advise you that there are a number of stories or movies you could watch. Okay, so in this now in this book we have 8 main stories. There are 12 knights. I told you that King Arthur had 12 knights around his round table, and there are 8 stories related to these knights. Okay, these are mixed up, but it is said that these are divided according to the books. But we shall discuss the main plot of these stories just with a brief introduction just. In the first story, we have King Arthur's birth and his rise to the power, and then whatever the prophecies made by Merlin about removing the sword from the stone. In another story, we have the two main figures, Sir Balin and Sir Balan. They are two brothers, and they helped a lot King Arthur in questing, or in, you can say, attaining the victories against these his enemies. And one occasion both these brothers accidentally kills each other with mistaken identity, and they murder each other. That's how they ended. There is a story, means there is a story related to Sir Balin and Sir Balan. And then there is one more story where we have the love affair and the marriage of King Arthur and Guinevere, his wife. And there is also introduction of the round table. There is introduction of Sir Gawain and King Pellinore. So these are just the important points as you just go through, and you may not take lots of stress when you try to remember, because these details are never asked in the exam. So just the minor points as a storyline, we just try to remember these main points. Then we have one more story related to, especially to Merlin only. And Merlin is helping King Arthur in achieving victories against various enemies. Then there is one more in one more story we have the representatives of the Roman Emperor Lucius. So remember, Lucius is a Roman emperor, and he arrived and demand true age tax. That is a sort of tax, and Arthur should pay the tax to the Rome. But Arthur denies, and there was a war between the Romans and the Arthurian soldiers or warriors, and then the King Arthur became victorious. And with that, King Arthur kept spending his empire and started ruling in different parts of the world, even in Rome and other sections. And there comes another warrior we have, that is Sir Lancelot. So warrior means the knights. So among these knights we have several names, as I mentioned, that Sir Balin, Sir Balan, or Sir Gawain. So another name we have Sir Lancelot. So now the stories that we are going to discuss, this is somewhat important. Lancelot gets a great position, high position in the round table, and he was among the greatest knights of the King Arthur. And there started a love affair between Queen Guinevere and Lancelot. But Lancelot never went for you can say for the queen. Okay, in the heart he had a desire, but he never expressed, because he was never willing to betray the king. He was so much, you can say, honest with his duties. but somewhere he could not control his emotions, especially when King Arthur was away from the kingdom. He was there to find the Holy Grail. Holy Grail, you can search on Google, it is a religious symbol or so. So he was there to find the Holy Grail, and that time Lancelot developed his love affair with that Queen Guinevere. And King Arthur eventually came to know about this affair, and he decided that he should punish both of them. He was willing that he should burn his wife and also give severe punishment to Lancelot. But Lancelot somewhere helped the queen to save that punishment, because he's helped her and saved her from burning. And later we have one more name, that is Mordred. So who is Mordred? Mordred is actually, he is the son, and he is the son from King Arthur and his half sister Morgause. From Morgause and from King Arthur we have a son, the name is Mordred, and he's also a powerful, you can say, knight, and he's there to become the king. He encouraged Lancelot and also the king a lot to fight each other, because he wanted that either of them should die, or the King Arthur especially should die, so that he could become the king. And later Mordred convinces everyone about, he actually spreaded a rumor that King Arthur has died in a battle, and he overtook the throne. So understand this, that the king was in a fight with the enemies in the battlefield, and in the kingdom we have Mordred, and he spread a rumor that King Arthur has died in the battlefield, and he took to the throne and became the king. But when King Arthur came to know about this betrayal, he comes back to the kingdom, and there was a battle between Mordred and the King Arthur. And in this battle, eventually King Arthur fought a lot with bravery, and eventually he died, and his dead body was sent on a boat to the Isles of Avalon. So that is the story of the King Arthur, especially in the Les Morte D'Arthur. So as I mentioned that there are 21 books, and there are majorly 8 different stories. And one more thing, it is not complete. It is also mentioned that it is unfinished, and but we have some sort of ending that the King Arthur has died, but whatever happened after this we do not know. And there are important points about this book. So first, what is the opening line? This is also a question. It befell in the days of Uther Pendragon. It befell in the days of Uther Pendragon. So remember Uther. Uther is the name of the king. So from there we can get an idea that this line belongs to the Les Morte D'Arthur. And the political commentary by Thomas Malory, we have Les Morte D'Arthur. So there was a question that it is a what type of work it is. It is a political commentary, because through this work he is giving some warning or advices, especially related to the issues of politics, that one should not be, or one should not become the cause of the destruction of England, as the knights of the King Arthur became the cause of the destruction of his empire. One more important point, that Lord Alfred Tennyson, Victorian age poet, Lord Alfred Tennyson, we have this name, and he wrote Idylls of the King. Ideals or idols, however you may, because there are a number of confusing words, they are not always spelled accurately. So Idylls of the King, it is inspired from this Les Morte D'Arthur. So whatever the story, again I repeat, whatever the stories we have in the literature after the 15th century related to King Arthur, majorly it has a source from Les Morte D'Arthur. So that is why this work by Thomas Malory is considered among the greats, the main, you can say, the best of his works, because he was not a professional writer, but still he produced that a huge work with the you can say collection of 21 books. So it is a some effort. Then we have T.H. White, one more writer, and he wrote Once and Future King. Once and Future King. It also has a source from this work. He is actually a British writer in the 20th century, and he wrote this work. In this work, he talks about the rise of King Arthur the Great. Or among the Arthurian literature, we have one more work, and that is Acts of the King Arthur and His Noble Knights. And it was written by John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck written this work in the year 1976. And Fairy Queen, if you can easily remember, if you have ever gone through Elizabethan age, there is one famous writer, Edmund Spenser, and he wrote this work, Fairy Queen. In that we also have some of the stories related to King Arthur. And then one more work by Mark Twain, as I mentioned earlier, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. So that is also related to King Arthur's literature. So different works I have told you, all these are belonging to the Arthurian literature, or the literature from King Arthur's life, and mostly they have their source from Le Morte D'Arthur. So whenever there is a question, if someone asks you that Once and Future King takes the source of its you can say story from Le Morte D'Arthur. So try to just remember these names, because I have already gone through these names when I was doing British literature. So hopefully you will also remember these names easily. And important things I have already told you about the life of Sir Thomas Malory. His personal life was so much related to the crimes, but he is talking about the things related to the bravery, to the chivalry, and also about the honesty and just. So there is a contradiction you can produce between his thoughts and his acts. Okay, so far as the story is concerned, so try to remember a few of the points. That it was published in the year 1485 and published by William Caxton. And in this we have 21 books in this work, and there are several knights. Their names I have already mentioned, and the story related to the birth of the King Arthur and the death. This is very much important. Several stories related to the knights, I think that is not that much important. And most important point, do not confuse with these two kings. King Alfred, he is a real man. He used to be the King of England or Britain, but King Arthur or his knights, they are purely mythical characters. They are mythical characters. So that's it for this lesson. I hope you must have enjoyed. In the future, I shall try, if there would be any chance, I shall try to give a detailed summary of these stories, because I have, in this lesson, I just simply sum up the stories with one or two lines. I just mention the names of the knights. But if there would be any possibility of the time, then definitely I shall try to give the great details of these stories. But from the literature, or sorry, from the UGC net point of view, we need not go deep into these stories, just the main points I mentioned. So once again, thanks a lot for watching this lesson. In the next lesson, we shall meet again and we shall discuss another topic from the criticism in English literature. Thanks a lot.